What's going on, and welcome. I'm about to introduce you to Kevin, but before I do that, I'm going to let you know that this particular episode in the series is going to be completely different than any episode I have ever done in the past. You're going to understand a lot more of this in just a minute when I kind of walk you through, so bear with me. But I'm just going to tell you now, you're going to get some benefit from this one. So stick around and let's dive in. Let's kind of back this train up and let's just explain exactly what this typically would look like for you if maybe you haven't experienced one of these episodes before. Typically what happens is people that subscribe to my channel actually send in photos of themselves asking the question, what mistakes am I making with my hair? And more importantly, how can I get a more youthful look? And I pick from those submissions and I explain exactly which mistakes are happening and more importantly, how they can address these mistakes so that they can get a more youthful look. So this particular episode is going to be a little bit more focused on some mistakes that have been happening to Kevin's hair and how she could avoid those moving forward and then kind of what to do now since she's finding herself in the position that she's finding herself in. Okay, so the first part of the email says, Justin, thanks so much for all you do. In December 2021, I went from long to short. Long began to feel a little bit straggly. I never liked it pulled back. I felt too skinny. I've always enjoyed the sleek look and the ease of just flipping up the ends, and it kept me warmer. Okay, so this is where we're actually going to stop this for just a second, and I'm talking about the first mistake. Now, what you're going to find out during this entire process is that when she decided to go shorter, she ended up getting a haircut, and some things went, unfortunately, wrong for her. So I'm going to break down kind of this process so that she and you, if you ever find yourself in this position, can know kind of how to avoid this so you don't end up not liking what you end up with. Sound good? Okay, so the first mistake is kind of, well, not really understanding where you want to end up with the style and what you like or dislike about yourself, or just kind of not catching it, if you will. One of the things that I love to do when a client comes in and wants something dramatically different, going from long, say, to short, is I like to have them actually pull their hair back. And I want them to pull it back kind of tight just to get an idea of how comfortable they are with their hair completely back and up off of their face. Because many times when you end up going short, it's going to feel far more exposed than when it was long and you were able to kind of bring the hair down and have the comfort of having that hair around. Now, this obviously doesn't show us exactly what short hair is going to look like, but it does give us a good amount of insight into how short somebody or yourself is comfortable going before it feels like it's a little too bare for you. Now, if you notice in Kevin's hair, even though it isn't big hair, there's still some volume in it. She also mentioned in her email that when she pulled her hair back, she felt too skinny. Now, the mistake here isn't going short. It's the breakdown in communication with the stylist that cut her hair short. As you can see from this photo, her hair is quite short, and hair at this length won't really have the ability to create the volume necessary to make Kevin feel like her face shape doesn't feel too skinny. So it's logical to think that if she doesn't like her hair back, when she goes this short, it's going to make her feel like her face is too skinny, and therefore she's not going to feel as comfortable in that length. Now, I don't know the specific situation on how this consultation went between Kevin and the stylist, but this is one of the reasons that I say it is absolutely paramount that people bring in photos of things that they like and things that they don't like. Now, this doesn't have to be a specific photo of this particular haircut is what I want. It just needs to be an idea. Maybe you like the bangs on this particular haircut, but everything else about it you don't really like. Maybe you like the length, but you don't like the bangs. It's just a matter of getting an idea of things that you like and things that you don't like so you can better to explain to the stylist what you're talking about in a visual manner. Equally as important to know what you don't like as to know what you like. I would actually say probably more important. So with that said, I keep on looking behind me because I think there's something. It sounded like there's something behind me, and yes, so anyway, bring photos of things that you like and things that you don't like, and you'll be good. Sound good? Okay, now let's read more email and we'll get back to mistake number 2. Okay, the email goes on to read, but we now snowbird from New Jersey to Florida. Life in Florida can mean 2 showers a day for a quick refresh before dinner. Short hair seemed like it would be a good idea, but honestly, it's been a train wreck of bad haircuts and no good advice. Now, this is where I want to stop, and this is actually where mistake number 2 has happened. And mistake number 2 is choosing a hairstyle based on your location and how you think the length of hair would work for that particular location. Don't choose your style based on the location. Choose your style and your length based on the texture of your hair, and then use the actual length or style as a secondary means of determining what style you should go into. In this particular case, she decided that the best idea would be to go short because the temperature is going to be hot and humid, and it's just going to be easier to maintain. But more importantly, we want to know, is your texture going to function first in that particular environment? Once we know the texture and how that's going to work in the environment, then you can determine your style based on that. And then kind of the caveat to all of this is, once you figure out what your texture needs for the environment you're going to be moving into, we need to pay attention to what length is going to feel comfortable for you, regardless of how you think it's going to react. So yes, maybe short hair would be technically easier for Kevin in this particular situation. However, if short hair doesn't make you feel confident and comfortable, then there's really no benefit to it. You'd rather spend a little bit more time working on hair that you really love versus less time working on hair that you don't love. Oh, and let's back up. If you're new to me, you're probably wondering, dude, okay, hold on. You're a weird guy in the middle of the woods talking about hair. Well, you're right. My name is Justin Hickox, and I've been doing hair since 1995. I love actually taking you on adventures while I teach you about hair. So all that means for you is you're going to get the same knowledge that I'm going to share, but just there's not going to be white walls of a salon. Instead, you're going to see stuff like this. And today, if you watched my previous video, which I'll link right here from last week, I did say at the very end of that video, for those of you that stuck around, back to the next exciting thing that I haven't even shared with you yet. Yeah, there's a secret that you don't know. But maybe in the next episode, next week, I'll share it with you. Yeah, you'll learn about that surprise today. So stick around, I'll tell you exactly what's going on. Some of you, comment below if you've already picked up on it. All right, well, let's move locations and we'll talk about mistake number 3. Now, catching back with email, it says, I got a terrible chop. I have very straight hair, have been texturized, and had holes and ledges. I've been growing it out ever since. Each stylist saying there wasn't much that could be done about the short pieces. They just need to grow them. Now, there's actually a couple of mistakes that are happening in this particular part of the email, so let's dive into them. Now, the first mistake is not recognizing the power of texturizing, especially on stick straight hair. Now, the problem with texturizing is it can be done right or it can be done not right. And when it's done incorrectly, that's when you start seeing all the concerns that Kevin has been actually seeing with her particular hair. Now, with that said, the correct texturizing will actually help blend stick straight hair in and really give you a lot more options to what different kinds of styles you can do that don't look actually choppy. When you're dealing with stick straight hair, if you cut it too blunt and you don't texturize the ends, that's when typically you'll start seeing real choppiness with the haircut. The mistake was made by the stylist, likely over texturizing her hair. And then the other mistake is to understandably think that texturizing as a whole is just kind of a bad move. But there's a larger mistake here that I also want to talk about. And that is the idea that the only way to address layers that are cut too short or choppy pieces that are cut too short or kind of holes in the overall cut is simply by growing them out. Now, with that said, the stylist wasn't wrong, and it sounds like the different stylists were not wrong. They're correct in that many times we do need to allow them to grow. And here's why. The other option to just letting them grow out would be to take everything else shorter so that those short pieces feel longer by comparison. Now, the concern with this is it may end up being too short overall, and therefore you're creating a problem that may be larger than the problem of having those pieces that are too short. And that larger problem could be that, well, yes, now technically these shorter pieces feel better, but the overall shape is too short for me, and I just don't feel comfortable with hair this short. In those cases, we do need to see some extra length come from those shorter pieces so that you don't have to back up quite so far to get those pieces to feel like they balance again. Now, it may be that for Kevin that actually taking everything else shorter to those pieces is a better move. She may be like, you know what, I would rather have my hair too short, I'd feel better about that, than to have these pieces the way they are now and feel too short for the rest of the length. So we just don't know. Now, the way you kind of address this as a client is, again, 1, through photos, but 2, through asking a lot of questions. And don't get me wrong, I get it. As a client, you rightfully feel like, look, it's not my job to ask questions. It's the stylist's job to explain things to me so that I can understand. And I agree with you 100%. If you're new to me, then you clearly don't know that I do this a lot because I over-explain things, but I do so because I believe it's one of the best ways to educate you on all of this. And you might be saying this, well, I don't know what questions to ask. Good point. So the question is basically always, well, what if? Or why? Well, we have to let these pieces grow up. Well, why? Well, because if we don't, we can't make them longer. Well, what if we did something else? Is there anything else that we could do? It's really just a matter of prodding and prodding and prodding until you kind of figure out the different ideas. Because sometimes, I'm not saying all stylists do this, but sometimes a stylist may just not know or may just think that, well, you wouldn't want that. Without asking you, would you want that? So let me read the rest of this email, and then we're going to dive into my ideas for where I think Kevin should go from here. The rest of the email reads, I had colored my hair for years, naturally strawberry blonde to a bit red. Then I had a terrible reaction to dye that lasted for a month of open sores, and I never colored my hair again. I don't mind my natural color. I do have a white streak in the back of my head that lays against the darker tones, and it can make graduated cuts look uneven. Style. What's in my head? Do I grow back long? Do I go short? I want what looks best. I'm artsy, and I am open to anything but totally shaved. I want to look more chic, edgy, polished, but not rocker, and less Karen. In my head, I want to be this. Okay, first of all, is that not you? Like, I'm asking this as a legitimate, honest question. Am I alone here? Guys, like, tell me, does this not look like it would be the back of her head almost right now? Look at this photo and then look at this photo. It looks so close, right? Okay, maybe I'm crazy, or maybe it is. I don't know. But what I did do while I was trying to determine what would be a good option for her from this point is I actually looked into her a little bit, because I believe that since I can't ask the questions necessary in the situation, I have to do my own due diligence and find out the answers by myself. So I went to Facebook pages and I went to her website. She's an amazing artist. She does some incredible work. You should definitely go check her out. I'll actually link a link to her website in the description below so you can see her work. And so I got a better feeling of kind of really what she means when she says things like edgy. Now, this is very important to understand. When you're going into a new stylist, you want to be careful about using specific words, because my edgy, hello, have you seen me? Look, I'm a bit tattooed, so you might think that my edgy is crazy and edgy, when in reality, 26 years behind the chair, the vast majority of my clientele was actually corporate America, and I really didn't get to be crazy and edgy. It's not really kind of my style. So my edgy is a little bit more toned down than you may think. Now, I also want to take into consideration what was said in the emails regarding her color and her lack of desire to continue coloring, and her concern about allergic reactions to the color. So all of these things kind of have to come into play when I'm thinking about which way to take her. I'll show you in just a second kind of what I would go towards, and I'd love to hear your opinion on it. But one other thing that I think is very important to recognize is that she said, I want what's going to look best. Now I want to back this up right now. This is the most important thing that I can share with you ever in any of my videos. If you don't get anything from my entire channel, get this. There is not one thing that will look best on you. Me telling you that this is what I would do if I could do anything is going to put into your mind the idea that, well, this is what would look best on me, period. This is the style that functions the best. That is very limiting to you, and to my opinion, it's not fair to you. There are a lot of different styles that can look great on you. It really is more of an important thing to figure out what length do you like, and then within that length, now what style is going to function best for you and your lifestyle and what you want out of your hair and your hair texture within that length. That is a key thing to understand, because when you understand that, you realize that you need to explain more to the stylist, and it'll give you an insight into what you need to explain to the stylist. For instance, what length do I feel most comfortable in? What are my struggles with styling my hair based on my hair texture? What do I define myself as in terms of funky, edgy, crazy, wild, super conservative, corporate America, or whatever? And here are some photos that explain those keywords that I just used. Now, I hope that makes sense. Okay, I'm just gonna do this here real quick. Okay. For some of you, you just figured out what the surprise that I was gonna fill you in at the end of this video is. Some of you have no idea what I'm talking about. Some of you are catching on right now. All right, anyway, let's dive into exactly what I think she should do. This is a haircut that I think would look phenomenal on you. Okay, I know this looks severe, it looks crazy. You're like, wait a minute, hold on. But let me back this up a little bit. And there's a reason why I chose this particular haircut, not hairstyle. See, the cut is what's actually done into the hair. The style is the literal way that you style it, right? So in this case, this is actually going to be not far from where she's at right now. In fact, for me to prove that it's not far from where she's at, let's go ahead and look at this photo. This photo shows us a profile version of the hair styled down. This is the same haircut as this one, just styled down versus styled back off of her face. Now here's why I went to this particular style. One, it's not far from where she's at right now. 2, it gives her the opportunity to do a style that is very similar to what she said, this is how I envision myself, this photo right here. But much more importantly, it has more versatility with this front being a little bit shorter. Now, if you notice, there's a little bit of extra length on the sides and on the back, so it still has a little bit of fullness to not make her face feel too thin, so she could still feel comfortable in it. The other option would be she could even take her hair a little bit shorter in the front, kind of like a bang, and wear it really messy, more like this photo. Now I gotta back this up. This particular photo, if I'm completely honest, and that's my goal, is to be 100% honest with you guys at all times, I don't love this look quite as much. The reason I'm actually showing you this look is because I did want to show you something that's a little bit different. And ultimately, I'm not the person that gets to choose what Kevin likes or doesn't like. So I want to give her some different options so she can see. And regardless of whether or not I like it, it's kind of irrelevant because it needs to be what Kevin likes and what she feels confident in. Although it would look a lot better actually on Kevin and not Photoshop. I will say that Photoshopping, this isn't the best. Now, one other reason that I like this overall look is because I really like the idea of the kind of whimsical feel of it, the kind of messy and kind of off of her face and a little bit more artsy of a look. It gives us that little bit of edginess without going into, say, a mohawk, right? It doesn't go so far, but you know how I roll. Like, what's your opinion? What do you think? I'm curious to hear. Do you think I'm crazy? Do you think this is a terrible look? Actually, no, don't don't say it if you think that. Comment below and let me know what you think. You stuck around long enough. You want to know what is a surprise. Well, let me tell you what the surprise is. This, friends, is a door. And that door is to a van. And that van is now my wife and my house. Yes, we have finally moved into our van, and we are, starting October 2, traveling around. We are on the road. We're going to get out of the Pacific Northwest and head probably south towards California-ish and then east. That's the plan. So if you have been around the channel for a while and you knew about that, well, first of all, thanks for hanging out. Second of all, what that means for you, for the new folks, is that really this background is just going to be cooler and cooler and cooler and cooler. Different stuff, totally different views. And trust me, this van is built to get us out in the middle of nowhere on purpose so that I can bring better views to you. Yeah, that's the plan. So that's all I had to say. That's it. That's the rest. That's the video. It's done now. I've got nothing else. That's it. Bye. We'll see you later. See you next week.